Hey everybody, Charles, howdy. Anyway, I just went to the
Action Figure Museum, and it's quite the place. It's a must-see for
I
little
got a
ones.
magnet. What is there to see?
Action figures
Lots
galore.
of action figures, of course. So anyway, I go in and the director of the museum is quite helpful and engaging, and he tells me all about the displays and says that the displays have each display, like they have a Marvel display with all the Marvel action characters.
My favorite action figure is the Green Goblin.
There's something in that display that's not Marvel. And so he says most of the displays have something in them of that nature. And then there's the DC display.
You can see the action figures in the case there.
He tells me there's something in the DC display. So I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to find out on
Next
your own.
door,
There's a really nice cafe.
a little breakfast, and then the Action Figure Museum will be next.
So I had breakfast there, and then I went over once the Action Figure Museum opened and took a tour. Because of my long travels, I had to use the bathroom first. So between the ladies and the men's room, there was a water cooler.
Hanging out with Chewbacca and Vader here.
And who do you suppose is standing by the water cooler but Darth Vader and Chewbacca? You know, shooting the breeze by the water cooler.
Vader keeps spouting off stuff about me not being a Jedi yet.
Whatever, Vader. Try your Jedi mind trick. My sisters.
Look, it's Deanna Troy. I wonder if she knows what I'm thinking.
They had the Lost in Space robot, a big version and a little version. Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, the old Godzilla. The first one they did, they had an action figure of the old Godzilla.
Godzilla and the Lost in Space robot. Sweet! With the Lost in Space characters down here, including Dr. Smith. And then there's Mechagodzilla and regular Godzilla. That's like my first wife and my second wife.
They had a Batcave. And of course, in the Batcave is all things Batman. And Robin.
Batman and Robin. The Action Figure Museum is something that we are very proud of. I'm telling you, this place has the coolest stuff. Everything you ever wanted to know about Batman is in this room. It's the Batman room. I'm here to answer a few questions. In the corner of the room here, let me show you. They've got a TV playing. See, there it is. With the old Batman show. And now, will our Cape Crusaders lose their lives? Tune in next week for the next adventure. Most of the questions are about the Batman TV show. The episode running in the back here, it's the one with the shark. I am especially fond of the shark episode. With the shark that gets on the helicopter rungs with Batman. Yes, the shark did climb up the ladder rung after us, and I had to give him a beat down. I regret at this point that I do not have quarters to chunk into the machine here. I'm actually in the Batmobile, but I don't have any quarters, so I can't get it to go. We always take a bag of quarters, and me and Robin take turns. I just pretend it's going, and I'm Batman. Batman. It was my idea that they would put one of the real ones that we have. We have a small one at one of our caves, and I would have donated it, but for insurance purposes, they thought it was best to just use one that they put in front of a grocery store. And I guess that makes sense because the one we have shoots flames out the back. Pretty cool. You guys gotta stop. It's in Paul Valley, Oklahoma. Batman can't go out unless he has his tighties on. He doesn't wear the tighty whities though. He wears these.
They had a display with aliens and the Terminator, RoboCop.
Pinhead, Alien, Jason, Ash, RoboCop, and of course, the Terminator.
And then they had one they called the bedroom display, I believe. It's a bed, and it's surrounded by action figures, like it's a toy room, a kid's room where he had just way too many toys, and you know they're all around the bed. And there's a lot of interesting things in there.
What you see behind me is a collector's delight. You know, a child's a Christmas.
I thought I saw George Bush in the action figures, and I thought to myself, surely George Bush doesn't have an action figure, but maybe he does because, you know, when he ducked the shoes, That was a great deal of action Georgie took when he ducked those shoes. Maybe his high point of his 8 years was ducking the shoes when the guy threw them. And he's pretty agile. That guy's got quickness. Anyway, I thought it was George Bush, but it wasn't. It was Alfred E. Newman. Well, it's an honest mistake.
Anybody could mistake Georgie for Alfred E. Newman. Anyway, you could see him right there, next to the Millennium Falcon. Yeah, that's not George Bush. It's Alfred E. Newman. Because I guess George Bush really doesn't have an action figure, which personally I think is unfair. Because when he ducked those shoes, that was action.
They had a Dick Tracy display with the big chair.
You can go sit in it and think and become smart like Dick Tracy and figure out the caper.
Spider-Man.
They got the little Spider-Mans and the big Spider-Mans and the medium Spider-Mans and the big Spider-Man poster somewhere around here.
Ninja Turtles.
Turtles at a half show, baby.
And they had Joes.
G.I. Joe. They got a whole section for G.I. Joe. There's all kind of G.I. Joes, and they're G.I. Joe fighting machines.
They had the German soldier G.I. Joes because you got to have a good enemy.
Some sauerkrauts, too. They're over here. They got all the krauts in there.
The Nazis make a pretty good enemy, you know. And in among the Joes was, I will tell you this, the Predator.
There's somebody out of place in here. Yeah, I think you see him there. It's a Predator. He's right back here in the corner. There's a bunch of Joes in here, G.I. Joes, and then there's a Predator. He's probably stalking them.
He hunts the hunters. So he's probably hunting Joes. He's probably, collecting their skulls and stuff.
Where would you expect to find Captain America? Among the Joes. That's what he is. He's just a Super Joe.
A room for the Super Friends.
Super friends must come here and have their super meetings and talk on their super cool phones and be super friends.
And the Super Friend telephone bank.
The police hotline, the presidential hotline, the NATO hotline, and, of course, the most important one, pizza hotline. There's a transporter. I can go in the transporter and end up somewhere else in the museum, or maybe somewhere else in the world, or even in the universe. Yeah, I'm going to try it out. If you don't see me again, then you know I got transported. Like if my zealot sisters had their way, I'd be transported straight to hell. But they're not here, are they?
When you take your children, and I would recommend this to anybody who has children.
Action Museum is a great place to take your kids because they got lots of action figures everywhere that you can look at and see, and they have a play area where the youngsters can play with the action figures. You gotta like that, so they're not just teasing them.
Take your kids there, show them the Action Figure Museum, and don't worry about your 5-year-old busting out crying.
And you don't have to be, now, Bobby, you can't touch the figures.
Because he can only look and not play with them.
We've got a toy area, a play area, so kids can come and actually play with the action figures. You don't want to torture kids.
They have a play area with a great deal of action figures to play with. He can play to his heart's content with the figures that he just saw.
There is one stipulation. You got to pick up your toys when you're done.
The museum is well worth the trip, especially if you have children or if you, in fact, like me, are a child at heart or were one once upon a time a child, which me too. I fall in that category, except my zealot church sisters. I don't think were ever children, but they're all older than me. What would I know? I just know they're always scolding and sassing and judging me. Yeah, but anyway, that's a little side story. There's always a side story. Anyway, go visit the Action Figure Museum in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. It's well worth the trip. You'll enjoy the time you spend there, and your children will love you for it. They'll say, my daddy is the greatest in the world because he took me to the Action Figure Museum and I got to play with the toys. Make sure you put your toys away when you're done with them.